Water dripped from my hair onto my silk blouse as my sister Madison stood over me, laughing. My parents weren't just silent, they were clapping. My name is Olivia Hayes, and I'm a 32-year-old corporate lawyer in Chicago. What you're about to hear is the story of how one family dinner changed everything, how public humiliation became public vindication, how a glass of water became the catalyst for the truth, and how a folder full of documents destroyed the lies my family had been living for 2 years. I never wanted it to come to this. But when your own sister dumps water on your head in front of 40 people and orders you out of her house, when your parents applaud her cruelty, when you've spent years being their ATM while they treat you like the villain, sometimes you have to choose yourself. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you are watching from. Let me take you back to how this nightmare began, and how I finally ended it. To understand what happened at that dinner, you need to understand the pattern that led there. For 10 years, I watched my parents hand Madison everything, while I built my career from student loans and night shifts waitressing. When Madison wanted to go to cosmetology school, Dad paid the full tuition, $15,000, just like that. When I got into law school, I got a handshake and advice to figure it out. I did figure it out. Scholarships, loans, working at a legal aid clinic for experience while serving tables on weekends. I graduated with honors and $60,000 in debt. Madison graduated and immediately asked Dad for money to lease her first salon space, another $20,000. He gave it to her without hesitation. When my first student loan payment came due, I called home hoping for maybe a small loan to help me get started. Mom said, "You're the smart one, dear. You'll be fine. Madison needs us more." That became the family motto. Madison needs us more. When Madison's first salon struggled, they bailed her out. When it failed completely, they helped her open a second one. When that one started losing money, they told me I should help my sister because family takes care of family. Every time I achieved something, making associate at my firm, winning a major case, buying my first car, Mom would say, "That's nice, dear, but Madison needs help with her rent this month, or her car payment, or her credit card bills." The message was clear. My success was expected and unremarkable. Madison's struggles were everyone's emergency. I paid off my student loans alone. I bought my condo alone. I built my career alone. But I was never allowed to forget that I was selfish for not doing more for Madison. 3 weeks before the dinner, Madison called me. Her voice was honey sweet, which should have been my first warning. "Liv, I'm throwing a birthday party for Mom and Dad at my house. I'd really love it if you could come." My house. She emphasized it like a victory banner. "I know we've had our differences," she continued, "but family is family, right? And I want to show everyone how well I'm doing. The house is perfect for entertaining." I hesitated. Our last interaction had been an argument about money. She'd asked me to invest $50,000 in a third salon. I'd said no and offered to review her business plan instead. She'd hung up on me. "Madison, are you sure that's a good idea? We haven't exactly been—" "Please, Liv, for Mom and Dad. They'd be so happy to have both their daughters there." I talked to Aunt Carol about it that night. She was the only family member who'd ever taken my side, which was probably why she was rarely invited to family events. "Go," she advised. "Maybe they're finally ready to see you. And if they're not, at least you'll know you tried." So I went shopping. I bought Dad an expensive watch and Mom a pearl necklace. Nearly $2,000 between them. I wanted to show I cared, that I wasn't the cold, selfish daughter they'd painted me as. I should have trusted my gut. The morning of the party, I packed my work bag instead of a clutch. Force of habit, I told myself. But looking back, some part of me knew I might need to be prepared. I'd learned to always have documentation ready. When you're a lawyer, paper trails aren't just professional practice. They're protection. I had no idea how much I'd need that protection. I arrived at 6:30, exactly on time. The house was already full. I counted at least 40 people scattered between the living room and dining area. Madison's friends from the salon industry, neighbors, my parents' church group, even a few of Dad's old colleagues. Madison greeted me at the door with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, my successful sister finally made time for us," her voice carried across the room. Several heads turned. "Everyone, this is Olivia. She's a big-shot lawyer, very busy, very important." The words were complimentary. The tone was acid. I forced a smile and moved past her. Mom and Dad were holding court by the dining table. Dad hugged Madison warmly when she returned to his side. Mom kissed her cheek. When I approached, Dad gave me a stiff nod. Mom glanced at the gift bags in my hands. "You didn't need to bring anything," she said. "I wanted to. Happy birthday, both of you." Mom opened the boxes right there, in front of several guests. She held up the pearl necklace, and for a moment I thought I saw appreciation in her eyes. Then she set it down. "You shouldn't have spent so much, Olivia. Madison could have used that money for her new salon." The words hit like a slap. A few guests glanced at me, their expressions curious and slightly judgmental. I felt my face flush. "I wanted to give you something nice," I managed. "Madison gives us her time," Dad said. "That's worth more than expensive gifts." Aunt Carol appeared at my elbow, her hand gentle on my arm. She pulled me aside to the kitchen. "Something feels off," she whispered. "Be careful tonight." Before I could respond, Madison's voice rang out from the living room. "Everyone, can I have your attention? I have something to say about my dear sister." I walked back into the living room. Every eye turned toward me. Madison stood in the center, a champagne glass raised, her smile brilliant and terrible. "I want to thank everyone for coming to celebrate in my house," she began. "I've worked so hard to get here, and it means everything to have you all share this moment." She paused, letting the words sink in. My house, her achievement. But I also want to share something that's been weighing on my heart. Her voice dropped, taking on a wounded tone. "My sister Olivia makes 6 figures at her fancy law firm. She drives a luxury car. She lives in a beautiful condo downtown." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I felt my stomach tighten. "I asked her, my own sister, to help me open my third salon. Just a loan, $50,000. I'd pay her back, of course. This salon would finally make everything work." She looked directly at me, her eyes glistening with theatrical tears. "She said no. She said I need to learn financial responsibility. She said my other salons were failing and she wouldn't throw good money after bad." The room went silent. I could feel judgment settling over me like a shroud. Dad stood up. "We raised you to take care of family, Olivia. I'm disappointed." Mom nodded, her expression pained. "Your sister has worked so hard. She's trying to build something. The least you could do is help her." A woman I didn't know, one of Madison's friends, shook her head. "That's so cold. Family should support each other." I stood there, 40 pairs of eyes on me, feeling the weight of their collective disapproval. This wasn't a birthday party, it was a trial, and I'd been convicted before I ever walked through the door. I took a breath, forcing my voice to stay level. "Madison, this isn't the place for this conversation. Can we talk privately?" "Why?" She tilted her head, mock innocent. "Ashamed of the truth? These people deserve to know what kind of sister you are." "Sit down, Olivia," Dad said. "Let your sister finish." I remained standing. I didn't refuse to help. I offered to review her business plan and— "You insulted me," Madison's voice cracked. "You said my salons were failing. You made me feel like a failure." "I said we should look at the numbers together. I wanted to understand. You wanted to control me, just like you always do." A man near the window, one of Dad's old friends, spoke up. "Maybe your sister has a point, Olivia. Sometimes family needs support, not criticism." I looked around the room. Some faces showed sympathy for Madison. Others showed curiosity, waiting to see what I'd say. Only Aunt Carol looked concerned for me. This was the moment I understood. If I stayed silent, if I left quietly, I would be the villain in their story forever. Madison would continue spinning this narrative, the struggling entrepreneur with the heartless, wealthy sister. My parents would continue enabling her, expecting me to fund their favoritism, and I would continue being nothing more than an ATM with a law degree. Madison, I said carefully, you're not telling them everything. What else is there to tell? She spread her hands wide. You have money. I need help. You said no. That's the truth. Is it? I met her eyes. Is that really the whole truth? Her confident smile faltered for just a second. That's when she picked up the glass of water. Cold water hit my face and hair, soaking through my blouse in seconds. I gasped, more from shock than anything else. Water dripped from my chin onto the expensive carpet. Madison's carpet, as she kept reminding everyone. Oops! Madison's voice was bright, cheerful. So sorry, sis. Maybe that'll cool down your cold heart. For a moment, the room was absolutely silent. Then Madison laughed, a high, delighted sound. And my parents started clapping. Actually, clapping. Like this was a performance they'd been waiting for. Maybe now you'll learn some humility, Mom said, her voice carrying across the stunned room. A few of Madison's friends joined in the laughter, nervous and uncertain. Most people just stared, clearly uncomfortable but unwilling to intervene. Aunt Carol shot to her feet. Madison, that's enough. Stay out of this, Aunt Carol. Madison's voice went hard. This is my house, my party, and I'm done being nice to someone who treats family like a business transaction. Water dripped down my neck, cold and humiliating. My silk blouse clung to my skin. I could feel every eye on me, waiting to see if I'd cry, if I'd yell, if I'd run. I did none of those things. I reached for my napkin and carefully dried my face. Then I picked up my work bag from beside my chair. The room watched in silence as I set it on the table. You've got 5 minutes to get out of my house, Madison said, her voice triumphant. I looked at her, really looked at her. At the smug satisfaction in her eyes. At my parents, still smiling their approval. At the 40 witnesses to my humiliation. Then I smiled. Your house? I said quietly. Let's talk about that. I know some of you watching this have experienced something similar. Being humiliated by family. Being made to feel like you're the problem when you're just trying to protect yourself. If this resonates with you, please hit that like button and leave a comment telling me your story. You're not alone. And trust me, what happened next changed everything. Let me show you how standing up for yourself the right way can shift the entire power dynamic. Yes, my house. Madison crossed her arms. I bought it. I own it. Interesting. I kept my voice level. When did you buy it? 2 years ago. Not that it's your business. And how did you afford it? Her eyes narrowed. That's none of your concern. Now get out. I'm curious, I continued, as if she hadn't spoken. A house like this in this neighborhood, what did it cost? 400,000? 420, Madison said automatically, then looked annoyed with herself. $420,000. I nodded slowly. That requires a down payment, usually 20%. That's $84,000. The room had gone quiet again, but this time people were leaning forward, interested despite themselves. So what? Madison's voice rose. I saved it! From your salons? I tilted my head. The ones that lost $30,000 last year? Those numbers are wrong. They're from your tax returns. Public record. Dad stood up. Olivia, that's enough. You heard your sister. Leave. I'll leave, I said. But first, I have something everyone should see. I reached into my bag and pulled out a thick folder. The sound of it hitting the table was satisfying, solid, substantial, real. We don't want to hear your excuses, Mom said. These aren't excuses. I opened the folder slowly. These are facts. Legal documents, bank statements, contracts. Madison's face had gone pale. What are you doing? You said I have 5 minutes to get out. I looked at her, then at my parents, then at the 40 witnesses filling the room. Well, you have 5 minutes to pray. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Madison's voice cracked. It means, little sister, that you've been living a lie. I stood up, water still dripping from my hair, and placed my hand on the folder. You told everyone this is your house, I said. You've been saying it for 2 years. You've accepted congratulations, hosted parties, even got nominated for Homeowner of the Year by the Neighborhood Association. Madison's hands clenched into fists. Because it is my house. Is it? I looked around the room. Does anyone here know how mortgages work? How property ownership works? A few people nodded uncertainly. Then you know that buying a house requires good credit, stable income, and usually a co-signer if you don't meet the bank's requirements. I paused. Madison, what was your credit score 2 years ago? I don't have to answer that. It was 580. I know because you asked me to co-sign. I said no. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Madison's face flushed red. But you're living here, someone said, so someone must have co-signed. Exactly. I opened the first page of the folder. Someone did co-sign. Someone with excellent credit, stable income, and the ability to make a substantial down payment. Dad's face had gone rigid. Olivia, don't you dare. Don't I dare what, Dad? Tell the truth? Isn't that what you always taught me? I looked at him steadily. Or does that only apply when the truth doesn't embarrass Madison? You're threatening your sister, Mom's voice shook. I'm not threatening anyone. I'm simply sharing facts. I turned back to Madison. You want me out in 5 minutes? Fine, but these 40 people deserve to know the truth about whose house this really is. Madison's confident smile had vanished completely. Stop it. The truth? I said quietly. The truth is that this is my house. I bought it. My name is on the deed. The room exploded into whispers. That's a lie! Madison's voice was shrill now. I qualified for the mortgage. Did you? I pulled out another document. Let's talk about that. Do you remember filling out the mortgage application? Of course I do. And do you remember your debt-to-income ratio, your credit history, the 2 failed businesses on your record? Madison's mouth opened and closed. Several people in the room were pulling out their phones now, probably looking up property records, checking facts. The age of instant information was not kind to liars. The bank approved me, Madison insisted, but her voice had lost its certainty. The bank approved a loan. But they didn't approve you alone. This house required a co-signer. I looked at Dad. Didn't it? He said nothing, his jaw clenched tight. Dad helped with some paperwork, Madison said quickly. That's normal. Parents help their kids buy houses. Help with paperwork? I smiled without humor. Is that what you call it? I vouched for her character, Dad finally spoke. There's nothing wrong with that. Vouching for character isn't the same as co-signing a mortgage, Dad, you know that. I turned to the crowd. A co-signer is legally responsible for the loan. If the primary borrower defaults, the co-signer pays. It's a serious financial commitment. Aunt Carol spoke up from her corner. So who co-signed, Olivia? Madison and my parents exchanged panicked glances. The kind of look people share when they know they're about to be exposed. That's an excellent question, I said. But before we get to that, let's talk about something else. The down payment. Madison, you said you saved $84,000? Yes, from my salons. Your salons that were losing money? I had savings from before. Did you? I pulled out more papers. Because I have your bank statements from 3 years ago right here. Madison lunged forward. You can't have those. That's private. You gave them to me, I said calmly. 3 years ago, when you asked me for rent money. Remember? You wanted to prove you were temporarily short on cash. Her face went white. I held up the statements so several nearby guests could see. According to these, you had $3,000 in your checking account. Your savings account had $800. Your credit cards were maxed out at $42,000 in debt. Those numbers are wrong, Madison whispered. They're from your own bank. Would you like to call and verify? I pulled out my phone. I can wait. No one spoke. The only sound was the hum of the refrigerator and someone's nervous cough. So let me ask again, I continued. Where did $84,000 come from? In cash. For a down payment. 2 years ago. A man near the back, one of Dad's old colleagues, spoke up. That's a good question. You can't just materialize that kind of money. Madison looked at our parents desperately. Mom's lips pressed into a thin line. Dad stared at the floor. Maybe she took out a loan? Someone suggested. With maxed credit cards and failing businesses? No bank would approve that. I flipped through more pages. But someone did give her the money. Someone who had access to a significant amount of cash. This is ridiculous, Mom said, but her voice shook. You're making this into some kind of interrogation. I'm asking questions. Madison made this public when she humiliated me in front of 40 people. So let's be public about everything. I looked directly at my sister. Who gave you the money, Madison? She opened her mouth, closed it, then looked away. That's what I thought, I said quietly. Madison's face crumpled. Tears spilled down her cheeks, real tears this time, not the theatrical ones from earlier. You're doing this because you're jealous, her voice broke. You've always been jealous of me. Madison, I started, but she cut me off. I finally have something of my own, and you want to take it away. You can't stand that I'm happy, that I have a home, that people like me. Several guests shifted uncomfortably. I saw sympathy creeping back into their expressions. Madison knew how to work a room. Mom rushed to her side. Olivia, enough. Can't you see you're hurting your sister? I'm not trying to hurt anyone. Then stop, Madison sobbed. Stop with your documents and your questions and your lawyer tricks. You've always had everything. The career, the money, the success. All I wanted was a home. One thing. And you can't even let me have that. A woman I recognized as one of Madison's salon clients put her arm around my sister. This is cruel, she said to me. She's your family. I looked at the woman, then at the others who were nodding in agreement. The tide was turning again. Madison's tears were more powerful than my facts. You're right, I said quietly. She is my family, and I tried to help her. By humiliating her, Dad demanded. By bringing up her private financial information in front of everyone? She dumped water on my head, I said. She ordered me out of her house. She spent the last 20 minutes telling everyone I'm a heartless, selfish sister. But I'm the one being cruel? Yes. Madison looked up at me, mascara running. Because you're ruining everything. Why can't you just let me be happy? I can prove every word I've said, I replied. Dad's face turned red. That's it. Olivia, get out, now. You've always been cold, he continued, his voice rising. But this is cruel. This is vindictive. Mom stepped forward, her expression a mixture of anger and disappointment. We should have never expected you to understand family loyalty. All you care about is being right, proving you're smarter than everyone else. That's not true, isn't it? Dad cut me off. Your sister works hard every day. She deserves this house. She deserves to be proud of what she's accomplished. And here you are, tearing her down with your documents and your accusations. They're not accusations. They're facts. Facts! Mom laughed bitterly. You and your facts. You know what? You can't love people with facts, Olivia. You can't build a family on documents and bank statements. Madison wiped her eyes, looking between our parents and me. Just go, Olivia. Please. You've done enough damage. I'll go, I said, my voice steady despite the anger burning in my chest. But first, everyone here deserves to know the truth. The truth? Mom's voice dripped with disdain. The truth is you're a selfish, ungrateful daughter who can't stand to see her sister succeed. The truth, I said, louder now, is in this folder. Every page, every document, every bank statement, And I'm going to read it. All of it. Dad moved toward me. You have no right. I have every right. I met his eyes. Because this is my house. The room went silent. Completely, utterly silent. Madison stopped crying. Mom froze mid-step. Dad's mouth hung open. What did you just say? Madison whispered. I set my hand on the deed at the top of my folder. I said this is my house. I own it. The whisper started immediately, rippling through the crowd like a wave. Did she just say her house? Wait, what's going on? I thought Madison bought this place. Aunt Carol, still standing in her corner, smiled slightly. It's about time, she murmured. Madison's face went from tear-stained to panicked. You're insane. This is my house. I have the deed. Do you? I kept my voice calm. Have you actually looked at the deed recently? Of course I have. My name is on everything. Is it? I tilted my head. All of it? Someone get the deed! Madison's voice cracked with desperation. It's in my office! Someone prove she's lying! One of her friends, a blonde woman in a cocktail dress, hurried toward the hallway. We all waited in tense silence. I could hear my own heartbeat, feel the weight of 40 pairs of eyes shifting between Madison and me. The woman returned, holding a folder. Madison snatched it from her hands and tore it open. Her eyes scanned the document, moving faster and faster. The color drained from her face. This can't be right. Let me see that, Dad demanded. Madison handed it to him with shaking hands. He read it, then read it again. His face went gray. What does it say? Mom grabbed his arm. Robert, what does it say? Dad didn't answer. He just stared at the paper. People were pulling out their phones now, typing frantically. I could see screens glowing, property records, public databases. In the age of information, the truth was only seconds away. The property records show two names, someone called out, reading from their phone. Madison Hayes and Olivia Hayes. Two names? Another guest repeated. So they both own it? Not exactly, I said quietly. Read the ownership percentages. Let me make this absolutely clear, I said, addressing the room. 2 years ago, Madison wanted to buy this house. She couldn't qualify for a mortgage. Her credit was bad, her income was unstable, and she had no down payment. Madison sank into a chair, her hands covering her face. She begged me for help. Not alone, she wanted me to buy it for her outright. I said no. I paused, letting that sink in. But I made her an offer. Don't, Madison whispered. Please don't. I would buy the house in my name. She could live here rent-free for 2 years. In exchange, she would stabilize her salons, build her credit, and prove she could manage money responsibly. Then I would sell her the house at cost. I pulled out a notarized document and held it up. We had a written agreement, signed by both of us, witnessed by Aunt Carol. Carol nodded. I was there. I saw them both sign it. So you own the house, someone said slowly. And Madison lives here. Yes, I've been paying the mortgage for 2 years, 26 months to be exact. That's $3,200 a month, property taxes, insurance, maintenance costs. I pulled out bank statements, letting them see the highlighted payments. $76,800 I've paid while Madison lived here for free. The room erupted in whispers. People leaned toward each other, sharing shocked looks. But she told everyone she bought it, someone said. She's been accepting congratulations for 2 years, another added. The neighborhood association nominated her for Homeowner of the Year, a man near the window said, his voice incredulous. Madison looked up, her face blotchy and red. You said it would be mine, you promised. I said it could be yours, if you met the conditions of our agreement. If you're wondering why I'm sharing this publicly, it's because silence enables abuse. For 2 years, I stayed quiet, hoping my family would appreciate what I'd done. Instead, They treated me like an ATM and humiliated me when I set boundaries. If you've ever been taken advantage of by family, drop a comment. And if this story is helping you find the courage to set your own boundaries, please share this video. Now let me tell you what happened when Madison realized she'd been caught. I pulled out the agreement and read from it. Our contract had 3 conditions. First, Madison would maintain the property in good condition. I looked at her. There's $15,000 in deferred maintenance. The roof leaks. The HVAC system hasn't been serviced in 2 years. The deck is rotting. Madison's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Second, she would work toward financial stability. Instead, she opened a 3rd salon that filed for bankruptcy last month. Gasps echoed through the room. Madison's friends exchanged shocked glances. You knew about that? Madison finally found her voice. I'm on the deed. The bank notified me when you tried to use this house as collateral for a business loan. The gasps turned to murmurs of disbelief. I saw several people taking notes on their phones now, probably posting to social media in real time. You tried to borrow against her house? Someone said, without telling her? Third, I continued, she would not misrepresent ownership. She's been telling everyone she bought this house herself. She's accepted congratulations, gifts, and even that homeowner nomination, all while I paid every bill. I pulled out more bank statements, spreading them across the table. Every mortgage payment, every property tax bill, every insurance premium. I have receipts for all of it. Dad finally spoke, his voice hoarse. Why didn't you say something sooner? Because I hoped she'd change. I gave her chance after chance. I looked at Madison, then at my parents. But tonight, when she humiliated me in front of 40 people and demanded I leave my own house, I realized she never would. Mom's face had gone pale. You planned this. You brought those documents planning to... I brought these documents because I've learned to protect myself. From all of you. I turned to face my parents directly. And you two knew. You knew everything. We didn't... Mom started, but I cut her off. Don't lie, not now, not in front of everyone. I pulled out printed emails. I showed you the agreement 2 years ago, right here, email dated March 15th. You told me I was being too harsh on Madison. Dad's face reddened. We thought you'd eventually... You thought I'd eventually cave, give her the house for free. That's why you never asked about the mortgage. You knew I was paying it. I looked at the crowd. They encouraged her to call it her house. They wanted me to feel obligated to just hand it over. Aunt Carol stepped forward. I told you this would backfire, didn't I? Mom whirled on her. You stay out of this. This is family business. I am family, Carol said calmly, and I'm the only one who told Olivia the truth. I warned her you'd try to guilt her into giving up the house. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to text messages. Here's a text from Mom to Madison dated 6 months ago. Don't worry about Olivia. She'll give in eventually. She always does. I turned the phone so people nearby could see. Several leaned in, reading. And here's Dad to Madison. Your sister has plenty of money. Keep pushing. She'll help you. The room had gone completely silent. Even Madison's most loyal friends looked uncomfortable now. You manipulated both of us, I said to my parents. You made Madison think she deserved the house. You made me think I was selfish for not giving it to her. You played us against each other so you wouldn't have to admit you failed as parents. How dare you? Dad started. How dare I tell the truth? I met his eyes. Or how dare I do it in front of witnesses? I straightened my shoulders and addressed the room. Here's what's going to happen. Madison looked up at me, her eyes red and desperate. Olivia, please. Madison, you have 30 days to vacate the premises. That's the legal minimum in this state for a tenant without a lease. You can't kick me out. This is my home. It's my house. You violated our agreement in multiple ways. I've already filed the necessary paperwork with the county. You'll receive official eviction notice tomorrow morning via certified mail. Dad shot to his feet. You'd make your sister homeless? Your own flesh and blood? I'm not making her homeless. I'm enforcing a contract she signed. She's had 2 years of free housing. $76,000 worth. That's more generous than any landlord would be. What about family? Mom's voice shook. What about forgiveness? I forgave the first salon failure. I forgave the second. I forgave the unpaid loans, the constant guilt trips, the years of being treated like a bank account with no feelings. I kept my voice level. But forgiveness doesn't mean accepting abuse. I gestured at my wet hair, my ruined blouse. Pouring water on my head and mocking me in front of 40 people? That's abuse. Lying about owning my house for 2 years? That's fraud. Using my property as collateral without my knowledge? That's illegal. A lawyer in the crowd, James, my colleague who I'd invited, nodded. She's right. Madison could actually face charges for that. Madison buried her face in her hands. Several of her friends had quietly moved away from her, distancing themselves from the scandal. I consulted with my attorney, I continued. Everything I'm doing is legal and appropriate. The eviction is valid. The timeline is standard. You're really doing this, Madison whispered. Yes, I really am. I turned to my parents. As for you two, Mom clutched Dad's arm. They both looked smaller somehow, diminished. You've made it very clear where I stand in this family. I'm the responsible one, the ATM, the one who's supposed to sacrifice so Madison can have whatever she wants. That's not fair, Dad started. Isn't it? When's the last time you asked about my life, my work, my happiness? I waited. They said nothing. That's what I thought. I pulled a letter from my folder, the last document I'd prepared. I'm setting boundaries. They're outlined here. I will no longer be your emergency fund. No more loans that never get repaid. No more guilt trips about helping Madison. You're cutting us off? Mom's voice was barely a whisper. I'm protecting myself. If you choose to see that as cutting you off, that's your choice. I handed her the letter. These are my terms. Family gatherings only on neutral ground with advance notice. No surprise visits. No financial requests. No manipulation. Dad snatched the letter from Mom's hands. After everything we did for you, what did you do for me? I asked quietly. You gave me guilt. You gave me the message that my success meant I owed everyone else. You taught me that boundaries were selfish and that love meant being used. Aunt Carol moved to stand beside me. Good for you, Olivia. Mom turned on her. This is your fault. You put these ideas in her head. No one put ideas in my head, I said. I just finally started listening to my own voice instead of yours. I looked around the room one last time. Some faces showed shock. Others showed understanding. A few showed respect. Anyone who wants to leave is welcome to, I said. This party is over. People began gathering their things. The exodus was slow at first, then faster as the discomfort became unbearable. One of Madison's friends approached her. I can't believe you lied about owning the house. I didn't lie, Madison tried to explain, but the woman was already walking away. Another guest, someone from the neighborhood association, shook his head. We'll need to discuss that homeowner nomination, Madison. This changes things. Madison's business associate, a woman who supplied products to her salons, stopped by the door. This explains a lot about your financial management. I think we need to review our contract. One by one, people filed out. Some avoided eye contact with Madison and my parents. Others gave me small nods of acknowledgement, even respect. Aunt Carol squeezed my shoulder. I'm proud of you. This took real courage. James, my colleague, approached with his briefcase. You handled that perfectly. Calm, factual, professional, textbook boundary setting. Thanks for being here, I said. Always. He glanced at Madison, who was now sitting alone, her friends having abandoned her. She'll be fine. She's young. She can rebuild. If she learns from this, I said, that's not your responsibility anymore. He was right. For the first time in my life, Madison's problems were not my responsibility. By the time the last guest left, only 10 people remained: Aunt Carol, James, a couple of distant relatives who'd always been kind to me, and my parents and Madison standing in a tight, miserable cluster. The house felt different now, lighter. The truth had cleared the air like a storm breaking humidity. I picked up my bag, now lighter without the folder of documents. Everything that mattered was now public record. 30 days, Madison, I said quietly. I'll have my lawyer contact you about the details. Then I walked out of my house, leaving them behind. The next morning, I met James at a coffee shop near my office. He'd already prepared the eviction paperwork. The process server will deliver it to Madison by noon, he said, sliding the documents across the table. Everything's in order. 30-day notice, standard terms. My phone had been buzzing all morning. 15 missed calls from Madison, 7 from Mom, 3 from Dad. I'd saved all the voicemails but hadn't listened to them yet. You should document everything, James advised. Keep the voicemails, save any texts. If they try to claim you're being unreasonable, you'll have proof of their harassment. They're not harassing me, I said automatically, then stopped. Actually, yes, they are. He nodded. Recognizing it is the first step. At 2 o'clock, my parents showed up at my apartment building. The doorman called up. There's a Mr. and Mrs. Hayes here to see you. Tell them I'm not available. 5 minutes later, they were knocking on my door. I looked through the peephole and saw them standing in the hallway, looking older and more uncertain than I'd ever seen them. I opened the door, but didn't invite them in. We need to talk about this, Dad said. No, we don't. Everything I needed to say I said last night. Your sister has nowhere to go, Mom's voice cracked. She has 30 days to find a place. That's more than fair. And you're welcome to help her. With your money, not mine. We don't have, Dad started then stopped. Exactly. I looked at them both, which is why you've been using mine. I closed the door. They knocked again, called my name, pleaded. I turned on music and let it drown them out. After 20 minutes, they left. I'd changed my locks that morning, symbolic and practical. By the end of the first week, the story had spread through the entire community. Aunt Carol called with updates. Madison's staying with your parents. Their apartment only has 2 bedrooms. I hear it's not going well. I'm sure it's not, I said, feeling a twinge of something that wasn't quite guilt, but wasn't satisfaction either. The neighborhood association officially withdrew her nomination, Carol continued, and I heard 2 of her salon clients canceled their standing appointments. I'd expected backlash. What I hadn't expected was support. A mutual friend from college reached out. I saw your aunt's Facebook post about what happened. I had no idea you were dealing with that. You handled it with such grace. My boss called me into his office. James had briefed him, just in case there was family drama at work. If you need any time off or support, let me know, he said. And for what it's worth, you did the right thing. Family or not, boundaries matter. Madison posted on social media. When people show you who they really are, believe them. Family isn't always blood. Real ones know the truth. The comments were mixed. Some of her friends posted supportive messages, but others asked pointed questions. Weren't you living in your sister's house? Is this about the property ownership thing I heard about? Wait, you don't actually own that house? Within hours, Madison deleted the post. I didn't engage on social media at all. I didn't need to defend myself. The facts were public record. Anyone who wanted the truth could find it. Instead, I focused on work, on my friends, on therapy sessions where I processed years of guilt and manipulation. I realized I had more support than I'd ever known. Real support. Not the conditional kind my family offered. 3 weeks after the dinner, Madison showed up at my office. Security called up. There's a Madison Hayes here. She's quite insistent. Tell her I'm in a meeting. She says she'll wait. I sighed. Send her away. If she refuses to leave, call the police for trespassing. 10 minutes later, I heard raised voices in the hallway. I stepped out of my office to find Madison arguing with the receptionist. I just need 5 minutes. She's my sister. Ma'am, you need to leave, the receptionist said firmly. Madison saw me and rushed forward. Security intercepted her, but she was already talking, words tumbling out desperately. I'll pay you back. I'll get a loan. Please, Liv. I need more time. My colleagues had emerged from their offices, watching. I felt my face flush, but I kept my voice calm. You've said that before, Madison. About the salons, about the car, about everything. This time is different. I have a plan. I don't believe you anymore. What if I apologize? Her voice cracked. Publicly? I'll tell everyone I was wrong. This isn't about apologies. It's about actions. You've shown me who you are, Madison. I'm finally listening. Please. She was crying now, mascara running. I'm your sister. You were my sister when you poured water on my head. You were my sister when you tried to use my house as collateral. You were my sister every time you took my help and gave nothing back. Security gently but firmly escorted her toward the elevator. She looked back at me, her face desperate and angry. You'll regret this, she shouted as the elevator doors closed. James appeared at my elbow. You okay? I took a breath. I'm better than okay. I'm done being their doormat. On day 30, I arrived at the house with James and a locksmith. It was a cold morning, the kind where your breath fogs in the air. Madison was gone. The house was empty, but the condition she'd left it in told its own story. There were holes in the walls where she'd apparently ripped down picture frames, stains on the carpet, wine, maybe, or coffee. The kitchen faucet dripped steadily, and when I checked, I found she'd broken the handle trying to force it. Document everything, James advised, taking photos with his phone. This comes out of the security deposit. Security deposit. I'd required one in our original agreement, $5,000. It wouldn't begin to cover the damage. I walked through the empty rooms, my footsteps echoing. 2 years ago, I'd bought this house hoping it would help my sister grow up, become responsible, build a real life. Instead, it had revealed who we all really were. I didn't cry. I'd done my crying weeks ago, in therapy, processing the grief of losing a family I'd never really had. Now I just felt relieved and tired. What are you going to do with it? James asked. Sell it. Too many bad memories. I looked around the living room where Madison had humiliated me. I'll use the proceeds for a downtown condo, something that's just mine, no strings attached. Good plan? The locksmith finished installing new locks. I took the keys, feeling their weight in my palm. My phone buzzed. A text from Aunt Carol. How did it go? I typed back, It's done. Thank you for always believing in me. Her response came immediately. Proud of you. Dinner this weekend? Yes. Your place? Perfect. I pocketed my phone and took one last look at the house. Then I locked the door and walked away. 3 months later, I stood in my new condo, coffee in hand, watching the sunrise over Chicago's skyline. The condo was smaller than the house, just 2 bedrooms, but it was mine, really mine. No family drama, no hidden agendas, no strings attached. I'd sold the house for $400,000. After paying off the remaining mortgage and covering the repairs Madison had left behind, I'd cleared $180,000 in profit. I'd used it as a down payment here and invested the rest. Work was going well. Better than well. I'd just made senior partner, the youngest in the firm's history. My boss said it was because of my unshakable professionalism and clear boundaries. I'd smiled at that. I was dating again, casually. Nothing serious yet, but it felt good to be open to possibilities. Aunt Carol and I had dinner every other week. She'd become more than family. She'd become a friend, a mentor, someone who'd stood by me when no one else would. I'd also joined a support group for people dealing with toxic family dynamics. Hearing other people's stories, realizing I wasn't alone, it had helped more than I'd expected. I'd even started a blog about setting boundaries, sharing what I'd learned. It had attracted 50,000 followers in 6 months. People sent messages thanking me, telling me my story had given them courage to stand up for themselves. Through Carol, I heard occasional updates about my family. Madison had moved into a small apartment and was working as a hairstylist in someone else's salon. Her third salon had officially closed. My parents were still bitter, still convinced I was the villain in their story. But I'd stopped caring about their narrative. I slept through the night now. No more anxiety attacks, no more guilt-driven insomnia. That alone was worth everything. Looking back now, I can see clearly what I couldn't see then. So let me share what I learned, in case you're in a situation like I was. First, document everything. If I hadn't kept receipts, contracts, emails, and text messages, I would have had no proof. When dealing with family who might turn on you, a paper trail isn't paranoia, it's protection. Second, boundaries aren't mean. I spent years thinking that setting limits made me selfish. But boundaries don't damage relationships. They make them honest. They protect everyone involved. Third, you can't change people who don't want to change. I gave Madison 2 years and countless chances. She chose not to grow, not to take responsibility, not to be honest. That's on her, not me. Fourth, choose your family. Blood doesn't obligate you to accept abuse. Aunt Carol, James, my friends, my support group, they're my real family now. They celebrate my boundaries instead of violating them. Fifth, professional beats emotional. When I stayed calm and used facts, I won. If I'd screamed or cried, they would have painted me as unstable. Logic and documentation were my weapons, and they were more powerful than any emotional outburst could have been. Sixth, consequences teach what words can't. Madison didn't learn from our conversations. She didn't learn from my warnings. She learned from losing the house, from facing real, tangible consequences for her actions. And finally, setting boundaries isn't about punishment. It's about self-preservation. I didn't evict Madison to hurt her. I did it to protect myself from further manipulation and abuse. If someone in your family treats you like an ATM, you're not obligated to keep paying. If they humiliate you, you're allowed to walk away. If they refuse to respect you, you have every right to protect yourself. Thank you for watching my story. I know it wasn't easy to share, but if it helps even one person find the courage to set boundaries, it was worth it. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family? How did it go? Or are you currently struggling with a similar situation? Leave a comment below. I read every one, and your story might help someone else feel less alone. If you found this valuable, please hit that subscribe button and share this video. Let's build a community where healthy boundaries are celebrated, not criticized. What would you have done in my situation? Let me know. I'm standing on my balcony now, coffee in hand, city spread out before me like a promise. A year ago, I was soaking wet, humiliated, wondering if I was the problem. If I was too cold, too unforgiving, too unwilling to sacrifice for family. Now I know the truth. I wasn't the problem. I was the solution they didn't want. They wanted an ATM. I wanted respect. They wanted me to stay small, to keep giving, to never ask for anything in return. I chose to grow. My phone rings. It's Aunt Carol. Hey, yes, I'm free for dinner. Your place? Perfect. Should I bring anything? Just myself? Okay, see you at 7. I hang up and smile. This is what family should feel like, easy, warm, reciprocal. I used to think family meant suffering in silence, accepting mistreatment because blood is thicker than water. Now I know that's not what the full saying means. The actual quote is, "The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb." The bonds we choose are stronger than the bonds we're born into. Madison might tell people, I'm the villain in her story. She might paint herself as the victim of a cruel, heartless sister. And you know what? That's okay, because I'm the hero in my own story. And that's the only story that matters. If you're in a situation like I was, know this: you deserve respect. You deserve honesty. You deserve peace. And if your family can't give you that, you have every right to walk away. It's not giving up, it's growing up. Thanks for listening to my story. Take care of yourselves. And remember, boundaries aren't walls, they're doors. You decide who gets to walk through.